All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today I'll be doing my preview and prediction for UCF versus Tulane, rematch of the Week 11 contest for the AAC crown. Tulane's a 3.5-point favorite, 56.5 is the over-under. ABC, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The location of this one's Yulman Stadium in New Orleans, same as it was a few weeks ago. UCF leads all-time series 9-4, winning the last 5. Looking at the UCF offense, this is a unit that averages 35 points per game, showcased tremendous balance, 486.5 yards per contest. John Rice Plumlee, his health is a big thing to monitor in this one. He had a concussion in the USF game where he was on fire, 9 for 9 passing, ran for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Miley Keeney came in and was able to close it off. In a game they blew a lead in. They had a tremendous amount of turnovers in that one. But John Ross Plumlee, he completely tore up this run defense. I picked Tulane in the initial meeting, mainly because their ability against the pass, and I think they held up very well against the pass, 4.4 yards per attempt, 132 total yards through the air. But it was the ground attack that really proved to be the difference maker. 336 total yards, 176 of those and 2 scores came by John Ross Plumlee. Tremendous speed. If you've not seen him play this year, that's what he does. He runs all over the place. 5 games this year of 100-plus yards. His speed is just such a difference maker. 848 yards rushing, 11 touchdowns, just under 200 yards per game throwing, 13 touchdowns, 7 picks, 65% completion rate on that front. Plumlee, he possesses such great speed and ability as a runner that the vertical running threat was just too much for Tulane to handle. And that's where these opponents get stressed against UCF. R.J. Harvey's really stepped up the last couple of weeks, 733 yards and 5 touchdowns. Isaiah Bowser, he's the bruiser, 675 and 13 touchdowns. One of the more versatile backfields that you'll see in college football. That's what they want to do. They run 44 times per game. The offense certainly changes quite a bit when John Ross Plumlee is not in action. But we're going to anticipate him playing in this one. The line 3.5, it was originally a 1-point line in this game a couple weeks ago. And UCF won, and now they're bigger underdogs. I thought Keeney played very well, 15-19, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. I thought he played very well in relief of that one. And he also was big in that game against Cincinnati where he had to come in relief, completed 71%. On the year, he's completing 72%, 6 touchdowns a pick. It's been, pretty terrific when he has to come in. Looking at the receiving core, Javon Baker, 50 grabs, 710 yards. Ryan O'Keefe has 67 grabs, but only 688 yards. He's more of a possession pass catcher. Kobe Hudson's a guy that's gotten involved a little bit more here towards the back half of the year, 30 grabs, 485 touchdowns. UCF, they were tremendous on third down in this game a few weeks ago, 10 of 18 on third, 1 for 3 on fourth. The passing attack only had 132 yards again, of course, but they were able to convert, and I think that's a big thing here against Tulane. On the secondary, it's very good, but the run defense really got exposed, and that really concerns me because they don't have great run stoppers on the defensive line. We'll get to their defense here in a minute, but UCF all around, versatile offense, and Plumlee's in there, very tough to stop, kind of when you want to compare maybe to the Ravens and Lamar, in the slightest a bit, just because the threat of the quarterback's running legs or his speed on the edge, it's really tough. You want to man up in the interior, but you also got to keep contained. It's very tough to defend this offense, so I do think UCF, coming into this game, if Plumlee's healthy, they're going to look to do the exact same thing they did last time. Look at the Tulane offense, 34.5 points per game, very similar style of attack, but they don't have that running threat with Michael Pratt. He's, a respectable runner, 6'3", 220, 347 and 9 touchdowns, more of a sophisticated runner than just a pure speed guy. Very meticulous with the football, completing 65%, 21 touchdowns and 4 picks for Pratt. Biggest thing about him is just inconsistencies. He was not great in this game a couple weeks ago, completed 59%, had no turnovers, but a lot of missed throws, a lot of missed opportunities, and, that was a big reason why they went 6-12 on third down, 50%. It's a pretty impressive number, but the way their defense was playing, they were not able to stay in this one. They did score 31 points, but Pratt, he did not play his best as the games. Cincinnati, that was the same case there, 162 yards in that one, 141 the week prior, and a blowout over SMU. 21 touchdowns, 4 picks on the year for him. Big thing about Pratt there, just again, inconsistencies, not able to throw the ball, with precision at times, lacks that confidence, and that's, here at home, it's going to be big, but that's just a part of his game that I think over the years has certainly been noticeable, is just his inconsistencies. I do love Tajay Spears. He's terrific, 1,177 yards, 14 touchdowns for Spears. This guy, he possesses plenty of speed. You want to talk about the speed UCF has, this guy can do it as well, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ran wild against Cincinnati, 181 yards on a season-high 35 attempts. which is crazy because this is a guy that usually doesn't get over 20 attempts. Only twice this year has he eclipsed 20-plus carries. He does damage, 6.2 yards per attempt. Love what he brings to the table. He was pretty good in this game the first time, 130 yards on only 8 attempts. They were just down in this game a good bit, so they had to throw it a lot. But Spears, I felt like they probably could have. It was closer than they probably thought it was when it comes to their play calling perspective, because they could have kept feeding him, and I think that would have been the right way to go. Receiving core-wise, I think they're pretty deep. They have 7 different guys that have 20-plus receptions this year, all the way from Lawrence Keys to Shea Wyatt, who's the leading pass catcher, 582 and 5 touchdowns. Deuce Watts, 7 touchdowns on the year. Jaquan Jackson, he's been good, 400-plus. Tyreek James at tight end, not impressive from a production standpoint, but this is a reliable pass catcher you can get the ball to. I like this Tulane receiving core. Their offensive line, though, does not stack up to the UCF offensive line. UCF, of course, they have guys like Matthew Lee and Pahulu on the interior. Their offensive line is terrific. Tulane's not as much. I think they've been really good in pass blocking, run blocking, not as much, but I think this is a unit that they're smart with the football. At least their quarterback is. They run the football. They have nice balance as well. Not quite like UCS, but this is a very sound unit in their own right, and they don't turn the ball over much. Only 12 total loss this year. It's about 1 per game, which isn't great, but it's really because of fumbles. They've been able to protect the ball through the air. If they can shore up their fumbling problems, then they'll be just fine in this one. They did have 2 fumbles against UCF, though. Looking at the UCF defense, this is a unit that, gave up 0 passing yards against Navy. That's obviously not that too impressive of a mark, but it was a 3-point loss in that one. Got ground and pounded, 248 yards. I felt like they played pretty well in that game, but they still lost it. They gave up 438 against USF. They were getting beaten down on the ground. Tulane, of course, they were averaging a big mark in the game before that. This is a defense that's kind of been middle of the pack. Not too bad, not too great. 21.5 points per contest. That's a really impressive mark. You have a phenomenal edge rusher in Tremont Morris Brash, 12 TFL for him. Also has a number of sacks as well with 6. A couple pass breakups as well. He's been a tremendous force for them off the edge. This is a defense. They don't have too many strong individual players. Of course, they lost Tatum to Bethune to FSU. Jason Johnson, 114 tackles, has been tremendous in filling in for him, at least I would say. This isn't a highly graded defense, though. Corey Thornton, cornerback's pretty solid. Again, Johnson, he's a phenomenal tackler for them. Does not miss many of them, especially in the hole, which is great against a guy like Tajay Spears in the hole or on the edge. Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste has 47 tackles. Josh Salazar at corner, he's been good for them. Probably their best cover player for the most part. Devod Wilson at safety, he's probably their next best cover guy. Kobe Perry, I do think the safety duo has been pretty impressive for this football team. This is just an interesting defense. It's hard to kind of give a good grasp on them because they only have 5 interceptions on the year. Pass rush isn't all that great with only 21 sacks, and Ricky Barber on the interior has been a good producer for them. It's just an interesting unit to try and get a grasp of. Not too much playmaking is evident, but they don't really break that much either. I think for the most part they play pretty well. They have not given up 500 yards in a game this year. In the games they give up a lot of yards in, they've been able to win. SMU, Georgia Tech, they gave up yards in that one, but they won. Same against USF. Memphis had 400 plus. They did give up 458 to ECU in a game they lost because of poor offensive turnovers. But UCF, pretty sound defense altogether. The biggest way they were able to win against Tulane the first time is just because they were able to get off the field. 6-12 on third down, did force 2 turnovers, and then Michael Pratt's inconsistencies didn't help. But guys were open against the pass. This is a pretty sound UCF defense altogether. We're going to the Tulane defense, 19.8 points per game. So the biggest reason why I picked them to win the initial meeting is because I thought their defense would be good, and they were really good against the pass. This was a top-ranked pass defense coming into the year, or coming into that game a couple weeks ago, rather, and they were just getting beaten up on the ground for the most part. 13th against the pass in FBS, 16 touchdowns allowed, 11 interceptions, 59.5% opponent completion rating. But the run defense is certainly something that's kind of been eye-popping. All of a sudden, gave up 235 to Cincinnati. Of course, gave up 336. And the first meeting that, they've given up 100-plus yards in every game since September 30th on the ground. This is not a sound run defense one bit. Darius Hodges on the defensive line, nowhere near as good as he was a year ago. Patrick Jenkins, those both guys have 5 TFL. This is a defense that does have 2 phenomenal linebackers, Nick Anderson and Dorian Williams. I thought they would be better in defending the run, but this team doesn't have an interior presence. Edge presence isn't all that spectacular either, and I think this is a big part of their football team that certainly exposed them. They only have 18 sacks themselves, with Hodges being the top edge rusher. This is not a defense that really has that presence, like I said, and that's going to be a big problem in this game. A team that has a good offensive line, can really pound the rock. Nick Anderson, though, these guys have been tremendous. Him and Williams over the years, a phenomenal linebacking duo. and they're really good against the run, but they were not great a couple weeks ago. The secondary-wise, Corey Platt, he's been good in coverage from his linebacking spot. Larry Brooks at safety. Lummy Young as well, the two sound players for them. Macon Clark, he's their leading tackler here with, a good amount of tackles in the back end for 56 tackles. Anderson Williams, 204 combined tackles. That's just tremendous work. I think the safety duo has been pretty sound, and they did not play bad other than, giving up third down conversions against the pass, which wasn't great, but they weren't giving up big plays, and they don't really give up big plays. This is a secondary that plays with plenty of tenacity, plenty of energy. 19 turnovers forced on the year for this football team. Just the biggest problem, though, is, again, that interior presence, that defensive line, a big weakness here for them, giving up almost 4 yards per carry for the Green Wave. It's going to be something to monitor in this one, what they will do to be able to contain this rushing attack. John Ross Plumlee not playing would obviously be the biggest help, but that's not something that I think you're going to be able to lean on as a game plan. So overall, two top-to-bottom sound defenses. I love the linebacking core of Tulane's, but they're going to have to get more from the defensive front. Looking at team comparisons, pretty cut and clear here. I think UCF has the edge at every spot on offense. Wide receiver, they got 3 great pass catchers. Running back, they got 3 great running backs. Better quarterback in John Ross Plumlee with his abilities. Defensive line-wise, Tulane, again, I don't love their presence there. The linebackers for them, though, and Anderson and Williams, elite players in the middle for them. And then in the secondary, I'm going to give them the edge as well. Playmaking is vastly different. Again, only 5 picks for UCF, 11 for Tulane. Of course, we don't just judge secondaries off of interceptions and whatnot, but playmaking is certainly something that goes in dictating which one will get the edge. And this is a secondary I think they've played really good all year long. They've not been cracked up too bad at all. 102 yards allowed against Cincinnati. They were playing a backup in Evan Prater, but there's plenty of speed on that receiving core, and they were not able to get unleashed one bit, not able to uncork any deep balls on that one. Pass defense has been very sound, so I'm going to give the secondary edge to Tulane. Looking at keys to the game, the final thoughts and the prediction on this one. UCF, again, establish the run, just like it was in the first meeting. That I thought was a big, key for them. And, 330-plus rushing yards. And get off on third down, 50%. It's not great, but, 6 of 12 compared to what they had, which was 10 of 18 on third down. I think they won the battle in that category with ease. Tulane finds big passing plays downfield and, feed Tajay Spears. 8 carries, 103 yards, or 130 yards rather in the first meeting. You got to continue to feed Spears. That's what they did last week, and they rode that all the way to a victory to clinch this berth. 181 yards for Spears. Pretty cut and clear, I think, there for them. Find some big pass plays, though. Pratt, they certainly have the opportunities from time to time. He just needs to be able to put it on them. A lot of big plays have been missed through the air because of his inconsistencies. I took Tulane in the first meeting. I'm going to take UCF in this one. I just don't think that Tulane has the interior presence on their defensive line to really bottle up this running game. I do think it's going to be a very similar game as last time. Remember, Cincinnati and Tulsa played a couple years ago in back-to-back weeks in this conference for the title, and it was the exact same game pretty much from the week prior. And I think you're going to see the same thing here, a couple weeks apart, but it's going to be the exact same thing, very close score. I think Tulane, they're going to be playing from behind. The rushing attack is going to be putting this offense in third and short situations, and I think, especially if Rice Plumlee is able to play, they'll be all right. And if he's not, then, Tulane has a much better shot of winning this, but I anticipate UCF being the win this one regardless. But defensive line for Tulane is going to be the biggest key. If they can step up and make plays, and they'll probably win this one. I'm going to go 34-27, UCF, a little bit more, kind of just like the last one. So that's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.